It's been a while since I've seen it at this point, but there's no doubt to me that The Woman in the Yard might just be one of the most chilling and expertly crafted horror films of the year. Maybe it's the continued lack of sincerity in the genre of late, or its refusal to pull narrative and directorial punches, but this sub 90-minute single setting horror movie is living proof of how much life there is left in the horror landscape. Not only is this thing properly terrifying, but it's tackling some really intense themes and messaging that is rarely depicted with such care and honesty. But this sense of thematic depth doesn't take away from the scares, like so many other films that are categorized as elevated horror, a term I'm planning to dissect in a future video. The horror complements the depth, makes it so integral to its overall conceit, makes it an ideal combination. The Woman in the Yard follows a mother, Ramona, as she struggles raising her two kids alone after the tragic death of her husband. Living on a remote farmhouse, the family's lives turn upside down when a mysterious woman in black appears in the front yard and won't leave, repeating the words, "Today's the day." What follows is a chilling psychological ride that never steps off the gas pedal and is committing to thrusting the viewer into the most uncomfortable emotional state imaginable. It's stunning to me how poorly this was received by some, because for my money, this is easily the best thing Blumhouse has produced in years, and will certainly go down as one of the best horror flicks of the decade. That's why I am so honored to have gotten to interview the writer of the film, Sam Stefanak, where we go into detail about his writing process, the inception of the film, and how it got made. Enjoy. Okay, first, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and
You're welcome.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. Yeah.
I came out to LA from Ohio and was doing comedy.
Wow. Okay.
I was performing. I got into a few writers' rooms as a writer's assistant, script coordinator, worked my way up for years and became a comedy writer.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I wrote for a couple of Netflix shows
F is
and
for family. Is that
I
correct?
run on Episode for Family.
Okay.
I did another Netflix show, one of their multicams. I had a lot of fun writing comedy. I love writing comedy. It's a part of who I am. I'm known as the goofy guy. I was voted class clown in high
Cool.
school, right? Like I love making people laugh. I think it's the best. And all my writing was comedic. I had been having this image in my head. I had been seeing it for years, actually years and years before I even started writing comedy. I started seeing this image in my head of a scary looking stranger sitting in a chair in a yard in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so I had been seeing this, I'm not making this up, in my head for a long time. And years would go by and I wouldn't know what to do with this idea or this image, rather. I didn't even know who this stranger was. And as my career just started to get better and better, I finally got to a point where I didn't need to have side jobs to pay for living in LA because it's expensive. And I was getting to a point where I was comfortable just saying, what now do I want to try and write? Um, but it was in my head, all in the comedy space, right? And then you mentioned, do I have to get into a headspace to write something like that? And I think it's worth saying your brain will get you there, and then you should take advantage of it. Instead of the other way around, I need to get into the more emotional, dramatic horror side of my creativity so I can write this horror, dramatic, emotional script. And it doesn't really work that way, at least for me. I realized this image was never going away.
Yeah.
Scary image that I was seeing, and I didn't know what it was or who it was and what it meant or what to do with it. And so eventually I found myself in a very, you know, kind of a downer mood. It's kind of in one of those feeling a little melancholy, as we all do from time to time,
As we do.
as we do. So I simply sat in my office right over there. The lights were off. I pulled up Final Draft since this was the only real way I knew how to tackle things is to write about them. And I simply sent a character out into this yard that I was seeing, and I had this character ask the questions to this stranger. Who are you? Why are you here? What can I do to make you go away? And I had this character that I'd been seeing for a long time finally answer, and I had
Cool.
them answer organically, cryptically, and all of a sudden I had a scene that I wrote from start to finish, sitting in my office I had no idea what it was going to be when I sat down. And by the end of it, after spending, a couple hours just sitting in the darkness, I had a scene that was good and
Yeah.
scary and strange. I didn't have any of my answers yet. I didn't have who are you? Why are you here? And what can I do to get you to go away? But I had my character ask them. And all of a sudden I realized like, okay, I've got this spooky scene. What can I do with it?
Totally.
And I just started filling in around it. I wrote, okay, well, what would make the stakes really high beforehand? Okay, let's say that this character is a mother. So I gave her some children, and I gave her a difficult circumstance, and I just started building off of that afterwards. And I was relying on that headspace that you were talking about, and I didn't need to necessarily get there to write it. It was sort of there because I was at the time I didn't realize it, dealing with a little bit of depression.
Yeah.
So, long story short, the end of that first draft of that script, I finally got my answers. Who are you? You're my depression.
Okay.
Why are you here? Because I'm depressed.
Yeah.
What can I do to get you to go away? Well, you can face me. You can deal with me.
Yeah.
And all these things I was figuring out with the main character that I'd created organically. And this taught me a lot of things about writing. And one was don't outline.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
This is what works for me. Some people love outlining, and I know that they'll defend it because they don't like rewriting. I like rewriting, but what I really like is just living in the uncertainty or living in the world with my main character. And the original draft of Woman in the Yard was it really had that heaviness, that heavy uncertainty to it because the main character's like, I still don't understand why you're here. I'm just gonna go back inside and sit around for the day. And so this was not like a deliberate decision. It was because me as the writer had no idea what was going on. I just started to live. I wanted to live in this day with these characters and have the uncertainty was driving them crazy because it was driving me crazy because I still didn't know.
You don't know why
Um,
it's there. Yeah. Like why is it in your head? Why is it in the yard? Why is it in your head? Yeah. That's great.
exactly. So it's all about writing stuff and writing things that mean something to you, tapping into something that's there and being presented to you by your brain's creativity and taking advantage of it and trying to understand what your brain is telling you. I think I learned that that's what my brain does with things I'm scared of. It visualizes them. It gives them a character to sort of embody that. That was my brain giving me my own depression to
Yeah.
talk to.
That's incredible. Yeah. I like feel so like I guess validated. I don't know because the latest movie I was working on it's kind of a similar not a similar conceit but it's called The Bag Woman, working title, and it's just this woman being haunted by the specter of like a horrifying lady in a burlap sack and bloody teeth, and like
Oh, nice.
it spawned because like I couldn't sleep one night because that image was just in my head, and it's just that's I never really verbalized that before, but it feels really amazing to hear that like that's how this movie got spawned. I think that's really incredible.
That's great. I think you're on the right track if you're already recognizing that that's your creativity handing you a gift.
Yeah,
I think as creative people, we tend to think about everything, right? I can imagine any conversation going any which way. So what I'm trying to say is we end up being very depressed people because our brains are so creative that we can imagine the worst possible scenario. We can imagine this going,
yeah,
a
yeah,
work thing is going poorly because they're all meeting and they hate me. And my wife is sick of me because she feels this is my brain is just sort of always sort of taking all these things in my life and playing around with them.
yeah,
And it's always just, it makes you depressed, but it also at the same time gives you creative, inspiration because you're able to take these things it's doing and eventually just be like, give me something I can work with,
work
not
with.
something that's going to make
Yeah,
me sad. And it does occasionally,
yeah.
or it makes me think, the world's ending. So it's just like take the good with the bad.
I love that I relate to that so much. And yeah, that's really great. Okay. Wow. Um, yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know, it is a brutal, I'm sure you know more than me, but it seems to be like a brutal time for original writers and original filmmakers and the filmmaking industry right now. And I'm just like, I think it's such an impressive feat to get like an original film like this made with wide release and with great stars and a great director too. And
Oh, absolutely.
I, how did that come about? And it's just
Boy,
phenomenal.
I mean, it's it's not lost on me that it's kind of a miracle for any movie to get made, let alone an idea I had uh, in my head. It's not IP, it's not a superhero movie, and it's a literal miracle that it not only got made, but like you're saying, got onto a few thousand screens across America. This is anything else beyond that is icing. It's truly icing. Uh, you know, somebody wrote me a bad review. I don't care. It is a review of a thing that is out and is art and it's connecting with people and it's making people mad. It's making people sad. People are loving it. People are responding to it. It's all icing, man. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And I will say, I never had any sort of intention of it ever getting made. And I think that this is a big lesson that I can try to tell you. If I had been worried about it getting made and turning into a movie, I don't think I would have written the script.
Yeah.
I think I would have been too worried about this isn't possible. This script, this set piece doesn't make sense. It's too much. It's too expensive.
Or
Oh,
to like it's a brutal movie. Like it's a brutal ending too.
well, actually, it's worth saying real quick before that I go on with that. But like the original script is completely different.
Okay. Okay.
It's the original script was called The Man in the Yard. That
Ooh.
was the script I wrote, and this makes sense because I'm a man, so my suicidal depression would sort of take the image of a man. I'm a man. This is the scariest part of me. It would be a man. When I sold the script to Blumhouse and we got a filmmaker attached. This was years ago at this point. A different filmmaker attached.
Hmm.
We were out to a big A-list name. And she loved the script. She was flipping for it. We're all very excited. And she has one note. And it was like, she thinks the villain should be a woman.
Yeah.
And Gryphon at the time, this was like devastating. I was like, no, I cannot. I've written this script to tackle my demons. And if I change this character to something that I don't quite recognize, I'll be letting my demon win again.
Yeah.
And I cannot do that. I almost like had to quit the project. It's like creatively, I cannot do it. I have had such a therapeutic, victory over my suicidal depression by writing its demise. The original ending was not ambiguous. It was I win. The
Wow. Okay.
and it was about winning the day and knowing that you'll fight depression again tomorrow. That was the original script. It was a completely different thing. It was kind of an action thriller. The man
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Very different thing, less significantly less of a psychological thriller.
Hmm.
The man in the yard had his arms could grow really long and he could reach her. It was I don't know, man. I was just writing this thing.
Yeah.
And this is a big lesson because I learned that once I sold the script, she got to give this note and I had to simply say, okay,
Hmm.
I will do it. I learned then that my story could only get me so far.
Okay.
And then
That's intense. Yeah.
it had to become the main character story
Yeah.
because she is a woman. The main character of the movie is a woman. And so her depression, her suicidal depression would take the form of a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was right. The A-lister was right. I'm not allowed to say who it was, but she was right. And as much as I was mad about it, it was the right change.
Yeah.
And it tells a more authentic story. And so I had to make the change. I did. I had to do it. I understand after I got over the frustration and it was just, devastating. I changed it. It's a whole new thing. And then as the years went on, it sort of we got the director who directed it came on board, and it sort of became a new thing, right? It sort of became a psychological thriller with this very, very psychological, ambiguous third act that leaves kind of a little bit of an uncertainty, right? And so these are all decisions that came down the line. Um, so it was all that to say, yeah, like your story can only get you so far. You have to sort of collaborate. If you want to get your thing across the finish line, you have to embrace collaboration, um, and you have to be willing to let your story not necessarily go away. Um, because I printed out the draft that's very personal to me. I printed it out, it's on my shelf. I read it from time to time. It still exists. It's not gone. Um, and that is helpful because now the woman in the yard is a more universal story.
Mm.
I don't think it's any secret that everyone that is in that movie is black, and I am the palest ginger you've ever seen, right?
I was going to talk about that actually. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Spoiler alert, I'm very pale. And again, this speaks to the collaboration because once it got set up with the producers and the filmmakers, and Danielle came aboard and she became an executive producer.
She's so incredible. It's yeah.
Oh, she's amazing. But it's like everybody had to bring their lived experiences and share them with the film so that it was already at a point where it wasn't my story anymore. And I don't say this with any ill will. I was at a point where let's make this authentic to the main character and to their experience. And to do that, I mean, you just have to collaborate. You just have to listen. The element of Ramona being an artist in the movie, that wasn't my idea. That was brought by Danielle because she's an artist and she was pulling from
Wow.
her experiences. I'm not a mother, but we had producers who are mothers, and Danielle is so we all are just pulling and giving, and the story just takes a new life, becomes a different thing in a good way.
But also
Where
like this doesn't seem like a case of like a studio imposing their like creative butchery of something. Like this is just like this seems amazing. This seems like people genuine people coming on board and sharing their lived experience onto the page. That's rare. That's really cool.
I agree. I think it was a blessing in disguise, to change it from the man in the yard to the woman in the yard. As difficult as it was, yeah.
First of all, I this genuinely one of like I think one of if not the best directed movies of the year too. Like it is like really incredible. What Jean-Claude Sora? I don't think I'm pronouncing that.
Yama, yeah, he
Right. Okay.
crushed it. He came in. If you want me to speak a little bit about that experience, we'd already had two other directors attached at different times over the years, and all of them had very different visions. And Jama's was the one that was already sort of in place when he came aboard. So he came aboard with a very specific vision, and that was helpful because we didn't have to waste a lot of time being like, "What do we want to do?"
Yeah, yeah, totally.
He's like, "Lose this. I had lose that. Get that out of here. It's this, and let's go." And from there, it was all about just giving him whatever he wanted on the page. Essentially, I mean, of course, I'm not like just saying whatever, but like finding that thing with him was great, and gave the whole, again, made the story a whole new thing. And so he really saw a version of this that I didn't even see at the time. And so all the credit really goes to him of being like, let's make this a weird freaking movie. Like, I love that. It was he wanted to find that ambiguous, frustrating ending that people either love or are devastated by. It's making people mad, making people I don't know. It's by design to sort of get that reaction, and that's
Yeah.
all his idea. Like, let's
Yeah.
I tried to make things a little less ambiguous, I'll admit. At one point I was like, what if we did, like,
She
what if
wins.
we take the bullet out? And he was like, no way.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Like, we don't, he said this phrase to me that has stuck with me. He says, audiences think they want answers, but they don't. They want more questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, he's right. I think, like, to his credit, he made a movie that is getting what you want art to get, and that's an emotional response. People, it's no surprise or secret that, like, some people hate this movie, And some people love this movie. Boom, we did our job. And I think that that's speaks to his desire to just go for it. Let's really dive in here and let's not hold back and let's make this, ending. We eventually found this ending. Like let's make this ending hard to watch.
Yeah, it's the reverse R is just it's it's so it that it, me and my friend we went at like a 10 o'clock showing at a there's no AMC close to us. There's like a local theater, but like they don't play a lot of stuff. But we drove like 30 minutes away to see this, and we first of all the entire film is just like one of the scariest movies I've seen of the like it is really scary to me. And I like to think I don't scare too easily, but yeah, that ending.
Interesting. I'm see because I thought a criticism that I had read was that it wasn't scary, and that's fine with me because I don't think it's your traditional horror movie. It's kind of got this weird bait and switch where
Mm,
and this speaks to I think depression. Depression shows up at your door as a villain, and then it becomes a friend.
yeah,
And I think that that switch by the end, it's not necessarily scary in the traditional sense. Ramona's like comforted by her depression, which I think is authentic to what it feels like when depression becomes your only friend and it's telling you lies that you're thinking are true, that you should, that the world will be better off without you. And so I think it's definitely scary to me having experienced it, but traditionally, I don't think it's a traditional horror movie. So what did you find scary? I just out of my own curiosity.
I found all the like horror sequences to just be like extremely well, just like a masterclass in escalating tension. And I don't know. I think there's the whole third act in the attic, particularly, really got me. Just like with like
Well,
just the amazing jump scares. But the one scene that like freaked me and my friend out is I think it's with a knife, but she's like holding her daughter, and then it's the pillow, but it's a pillow.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
That was
man.
just
Yeah.
and but also that only works because of like how much the film has us emotionally identify with the mother and the family, but it's just like we are really with her psychologically, and it's like oh my
Yeah.
God, like
That was a new, relatively late addition to the story, the knife in the back. Yeah. And that was when we were sort of, again, taking this thing into sort of a darker, more psychological, sort of, place. It was fun to so late in the game once Jama came aboard and to find. I was like, "There's no way we can find anything new in this story. I've lived in every room in this
yeah,
house."
yeah,
And then we were all of a sudden we were because he had the specific vision and things we found like the knife in the back or a
mm,
lot of the attic sequences stuff like that was all him. He came and he saw it and he brought new life into this story. And once I saw it through his lens, I was coming up with new ideas. So
yeah,
all the credit should go to him for sort of igniting that new version.
yeah. That's really cool. And also, I don't know. I think I'm writing another little video essay about this. I haven't recorded yet, but I'm going to mention Woman in the Yard as well. But I think there's been like this recent kind of trend of like the phrase elevated horror. And I think that's like a really frustrating term to me because I think it manifests a lot in like and films that aren't trying to create a visceral reaction and instead are just I don't know. I think it spawned from some really great films like Hereditary is I think the main like spawning point of this concept. But I think over the years it's gotten very diluted because of the success of films like that into like this kind of like faux intellectual I'm not being very eloquent here, but I just think your film really integrates like really powerful messaging and like tackling a great story while also providing this like really in like nail biting experience at the movie theater, you know, and
Thank
I
you. Thank you. It's interesting. Like the term elevated horror, I almost don't even know what to do with it anymore. Like you're
yeah
saying, like I think Woman in the Yard, you almost know what she is when you first see her as an audience member, but you still don't understand. You still have an underlying of like what to do. And I know like the original draft again, it's a man and he's not draped in black and he's a little less, supernatural on the beginning. And this version, it kind of gives you that right from the get-go. I don't think it's hard to suspect that she's not, that she's supernatural. It's hard not to see that
Mm.
from her outfit, right? You kind of get the sense of dread, the sense of death.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I still think it works because it's not a mystery of who she is, who's the woman. It's
Yeah.
not about that. It's just what do we do?
Yeah.
And I think that that's I think that that's a story that is worth telling is to some people's frustration that this thing is out there in all of us in society. And what do we do?
Yeah.
But as far as being elevated, I'll let critics who come up with terms
Yeah.
get
It's
that
a
out.
very, very silly term. And
Yeah, I get it, but I can understand it meaning anything that's not like a slasher. I guess I don't know, um, or a haunted house movie. So I think um, I think it's very cool that it sort of at the same time it like simultaneously is like a metaphor for suicidal depression, but also not a metaphor at all. Like she literally is suicidal depression
yeah.
incarnate. It's not like, what does the Babadook represent? Let's have an essay.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's necessarily underlying. It's in your face. It doesn't shy away from it. It's going to show you the most intense, emotional, possibly triggering suicide scene
Yeah.
I've ever seen in a big budget Hollywood motion picture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad it just does its own thing in a way. I think that's really cool. I'm
Beautifully
glad.
said. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Do you have anything upcoming in terms of?
Oh, I mean,
Of course. I mean,
I I loved getting into horror. I was, like I mentioned, doing comedy, and I love writing comedy, and being in a writer's room is probably hands down the most fun job that has ever existed ever. And sadly, those jobs right now in Hollywood are few and far between. The TV writers landscape, especially in comedy,
yeah.
there aren't a ton. So thankfully, I got into horror, and particularly, feature horror or specs, original stuff. And I've since sold a second one.
Nice.
And the name of the game in the feature world is packaging.
Hmm.
What that means is you write a script, an original idea, and I write lots of these. I've probably written over, I don't know, I've probably written 15 in the last, couple of years. You just write as much as possible and you send out your script. I have, agents and managers who help me get my script out to producers or production companies. And they say, "Great, we love this. We want to help you package it." And so you work with them on a new draft of the script. And they have notes, of course. Everybody's always going to have notes. And then you go out to filmmakers, directors, and you get their notes and you work with them and you find somebody who wants to come aboard and help build your package.
Yeah.
And then you go out to casting. Then you go out to This is a hard one because it's like you got to land a star to move the needle. This is a phrase that everybody in Hollywood hears all the time.
Moves the needle.
You got to move the needle. Oh
Okay.
boy. You need an actor who's not only good, but it's going to move the needle. And I'm a dumb writer. I'll suggest somebody and they're like, oh, they're great, but they're not going to move the needle. And you're like, okay. So then
I've never heard this phrase before. Okay. This is I need to lock
well,
in. Yeah.
no. I mean, you got to find somebody who's simultaneously not super busy, but successful enough that they're going to move the needle. So finding this thing
Yeah.
is very tricky. So since I am mostly doing that, I've been offered some things of like franchises and things like that, and not. uh, I don't think that's what I would enjoy writing creatively. So maybe I'm not going to be super successful, but I do think it's fun to write your own stuff that's weird and strange. And Woman in the Yard taught me one thing. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's really cool to make art that makes people mad and sad and happy and mad all at the same time. And that was so creatively fulfilling that that's kind of what I want to do. The feature world is so tough to get an original thing made, and
Yeah.
that's all my scripts right now are original stuff. But I probably have like 6 or 7 scripts moving along, hoping to get to the finish line. Some further along than others. And yeah, it's all about just writing tapping into that mood that your brain is giving you.
Mhm.
Some of them aren't necessarily dark and depressing. So other things are just kind of light or whatever. And you write them and you tap into it and you explore it. And all of a sudden you have a script. And that's great. And you use that script to package it up and you get as many of those out into Hollywood as you can, into the world, and let them get new life.
Yeah.
This one's set up with this producer and this director. This one's set up with this producer and this director. This one just got, a talent attached. Great. Now we're working on that. So you're kind of whatever is whatever project needs attention is the one that I focus on. Like today I was working on a script that I got set up with some producers and they had a big note. So I took the note and it took me a few weeks to sort of do their note and have a new draft. And now I have a new draft and I'm gonna send it back to them. So that's life. Just continually rewriting projects
Yeah.
for the rest of my days. I don't care about where it goes. I know it sounds crazy. Once the script is written, do your thing. If nothing happens with it, I don't care anymore. I wrote the script. I'm proud of it. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Uh, I think this is another lesson for younger writers. Stop trying to write movies and start writing scripts.
Okay. Yeah.
And you're like, what does that mean? I'm saying don't treat your story, don't treat your script as a means to an end. Treat it as the end, and you will be a better writer because you'll pour more of yourself into the project, into the story. You won't worry about production budgets or casting or any of these things. It's all going to be on the page and all should live on the page and it will be a better script if it is treated as the end as opposed to, oh, I hope this sells and becomes a movie. Don't fucking worry about that. Write your script, make it the best PDF it can possibly be. Remember that producers and everybody in this town, anybody's in this town, is going to get the script in their email inbox and just scroll through. Get them to scroll from page 1 to the last page, and you did your job. Be happy about that. And don't worry about like, oh, how does this scene, how can they make this? Don't worry about it. I would never have written half the scripts I'd ever written if I was worried about how to make a prop or how to shoot something.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just I can't stress this enough. A script can be important and successful, even if it never gets made, even if it never makes you any money. I have a script that I wrote 2 years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago at this point. Oh my God. Where halfway through it becomes a monster movie out of nowhere. And the monster is, I don't think it's producible. I don't think it's capable of being made. And I didn't care. I just said, I'm gonna make this script because it's in my head. I can't get it out. This image of this monster is in my head. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write this thing. And I wrote it and I gave it to my reps, and they were like, this rules. Let's get it out there. I said, fine, whatever, do you think? And I probably got 40, 50 meetings out of this thing. And everybody said, hey, we love your script. We don't know how to make it, but that's fine. We wanted to meet you and all of a sudden have relationships because of
Yeah.
that.
Relationships. Yeah.
And I can't stress enough that that's fine. I mean, that's more than fine. That's great. And I never would have gotten to that point had I been like, oh, I don't think this is producible.
Yeah. If you just stopped. Yeah.
If I just stopped. And then here's the end of that story is now we do have a director attached.
No way.
A
Okay.
director attached about how to make the monster. We have producers and we're out to casting. And so like whatever.
Man.
I plan for that. I don't care truly like anymore. It's just icing. Because I don't worry about trying to write movies. I just write scripts. And that has sort of just helped me immensely. Let it become its own thing if it happens. If not, don't worry. I'm satisfied creatively. That script is finished to me. That's it's a finished product in my head, and that is it takes the pressure off the project, and it takes the pressure off of the story, and then when you do need to state it, if it have to become something else. So stop trying to write movies, start writing scripts.
That's a great line. That's okay.
I think it's helpful. Yeah.
Well, this has been like totally amazing for me. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to come.
Very welcome, Gryphon, and happy to answer any questions at any time. You have my contact info.
Yeah. I'd love to keep in touch like that.
Absolutely, stay in touch, and good luck with everything. And congratulations on finishing up your freshman year.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a great day.